They reunify Jerusalem. They bring the Temple Mount back under Jewish control for the first time in 2,000 years. Some call it a triumph of Zionism, a tribute to the skill and cunning of the Israeli Defense Forces. Others call it a miraculous victory, the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. But for the Arab world, the Six-Day War is known as Al-Nakba, the disaster, and they vow revenge. In the months that follow the war, the Palestine Liberation Organization, led by Yasser Arafat, launches one terrorist attack against Israel after another. Meanwhile, the Arab states once again regroup, rearm, and prepare to strike again. October 6, 1973. The streets are quiet throughout Jerusalem. Preparations are underway for Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Israeli soldiers are in synagogues, as is most of Israel's population. Then, all hell breaks loose. The combined Arab forces of Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and Iraq, aided by the Saudis, the Libyans, and others, launch a massive and devastating sneak attack. In the first week of the war, the Arab coalition makes stunning gains. In the north, 1,000 Syrian tanks and 600 pieces of Syrian artillery mow down Israeli forces, aiming for Jerusalem. While in the south, some 400 Egyptian tanks cross the Suez Canal, wipe out Israel's forward defenses, and race across the Sinai Desert, also hoping to recapture the Holy City. By the second week, however, momentum begins to shift. Amidst brutal, bloody combat, the Israelis retake most of the territory they have briefly lost. Soon, their forces are within striking distance of Damascus and Cairo. The Soviets begin a massive airlift of arms and ammunition to their Arab allies. The U.S., in turn, begins a round-the-clock airlift of arms and supplies to Israel. And then comes an ominous turn. October 24th, Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev sends American President Richard Nixon a chilling message. Force Israel to accept an immediate ceasefire, or the Soviet Union will take direct action against Israel. In response, the Pentagon orders U.S. nuclear forces to DEFCON 3, and President Nixon fires back a message at Brezhnev. We must view your suggestion of unilateral action as a matter of the gravest concern, involving incalculable consequences. Faced with the prospect of a global thermonuclear war with the U.S., the Soviets finally back off. The Israelis agree to a ceasefire. The world steps back from the brink of disaster. Once again, Israel has miraculously survived. Since 1948, the eyes of the world have been riveted on the epicenter throughout one spasm of violence after another. Sadly, the history of the Middle East, both ancient and modern, is one of wars and rumors of wars. And now, a new crisis is brewing.
In the world of radical Islam, there are really only two categories. True followers of Allah who are committed to jihad, to a holy war, and there are the infidels, namely Jews and Christians, but they can also include Muslims who are not committed as devoutly to jihad as the jihadists think they should be.
In Islam as a dogma, the idea of salvation, there is only one way that you can assure yourself to go to paradise. It's not like the Christian dogma in which you believe in the death of one, Christ. By that, a sinless person who died on your behalf, you go to paradise. In this case of Islam, the way to assure yourself to go to paradise is by dying yourself as an offer to God.
سبيل الله قمنا في سبيل الله قمنا في سبيل الله قمنا في سبيل الله قمنا.
I was recruited by Mahmoud al-Mughrabi, whose relative was Dalal al-Mughrabi. She was a proud suicide martyr, if you will, who killed 36 Israelis in a bus operation. Her relative, Mahmoud al-Mughrabi, was a bomb maker. He assembled explosive charges in the old city of Jerusalem in Bab al-Wad Street. And I picked up the explosive charges with a timer, and I was smuggled by the Waqf police on the Temple Mount. These were supposed to be the guardians of the Temple Mount, Muslim police. Yet they knowingly allowed me entry into the Temple Mount compound to smuggle the explosive charges, to go out from a staircase to avoid the checkpoints in the old city of Jerusalem, so I can deliver the explosives to Bethlehem, in which my mission was to destroy Bank Laomi in Bethlehem.
Islam is not just a faith and a religion. It's a way of life. It's mixed with politics, culture, religion is all in one. So when you're born in an Islamic family, you have no choice. You are it. And it intermingles with your identity. So it is different. There are people who are born into a Muslim family, but they're not following Islam, but they're Muslims. I mean, because Islam is in them. It's a part of their identity. It's a part of the culture.
If you study the Quran and Mohammedanism and study the Bible, you realize that he didn't get very many original ideas. I know they were satanically inspired, but they have all kinds of imitations of the Bible.
Muhammad presented himself to the Jews as their Messiah, and that he was the promised Messiah, and they rejected him. And so then he presented himself to the Christians as the second coming of Jesus Christ, and they rejected him. And so he then turned both against the Jews and the Christians, and of course there has been that kind of desire to destroy Judaism and Christianity by the Muslims ever since.
A Muslim always is worried about his relationship with God. There's no peace. They're afraid of God. Fear has no peace. You know, a Muslim is always afraid of what Allah would do to them. So Islam, even though it says a religion of peace, it cannot and has not brought peace to people's lives personally, to families, to their relationship with others, and with the relationship with God.
The eschatological teaching in the Islamic Studies department focused so much on the Jews gathering in Israel, and the surrounding nations, the Muslims, will attack them, and then the trees will cry out and the stones will cry out, there is a Jew hiding behind me, come a Muslim, come and kill him. That's a well-known thing in all our schools that we learn.
What's driving Iranian foreign policy right now is a belief, a strong belief, particularly among the leadership in Iran, that the Islamic Messiah is coming. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad believes that the 12th Imam, or the hidden Imam, is imminent. He has been telling people that he believes the end of the world is just 2 or 3 years away, that the way to hasten the coming of this Mahdi, or this Messiah, this 12th Imam, is to annihilate Israel and the United States. And he has been rallying his forces, his public, to get ready for the coming of the Messiah.
Ahmadinejad comes out of a cult in the Shiite Islamic world, which was actually illegal during Khomeini's time. And this cult believes in the impending return of the 12th, or hidden imam, a kind of messianic savior for the Shiites, who is supposed to come to power in the aftermath of tremendous wars and an Armageddon-like scenario. The danger of Ahmadinejad is that he believes that this apocalyptic scenario can be accelerated by men, and he believes that the destruction of Israel is part of the key first steps to realizing this apocalyptic scenario that will lead to Islamic rule over the whole world.
He has said publicly that when he was giving a speech at the United Nations in the fall of 2005, that he was surrounded by an angel of light, a halo of light, and that for the 25 or 26 minutes in which he was speaking, that not a single person in the UN General Assembly Hall blinked. So mesmerized were they, he said, by the voice of Allah speaking through him.
The head mogul at Iran, the premier, he thinks he's the John the Baptist of the the Arab world. He's heralding, getting all these people together, and he's actually the forerunner of the imam of the 12th century that fell down a well or somehow vanished, and they thought he was going to come back, and they imitate the story of Jesus Christ.
Westerners now are familiar with the word jihad, but they have not familiarized themselves with the term hudna, H-U-D-N-A, in which you establish what is called ceasefire with a non-Muslim entity. But you must break this ceasefire because you're not permitted in Islam to have an everlasting peace resolution with a non-Muslim entity.
I was on the streets of Tehran, as you might recall, students shouting, "Death to Shah, death to America," and I was a part of it. And what we felt was, if Islam takes over, that's the only way we could kick out Shah, and we could kick out US out of Iran. That's why religious and non-religious, they're all united behind Islam.
We're now seeing the true face of that religion. It's like the mask has come off, and now it's being revealed. All that was said in the past about being fair and loving and equitable, when that mask comes off and you have large numbers, not a small minority, large numbers of terrorists willing to kill and asking for your sons and daughters to kill.
When I used to work with the PLO here in the heartland of America in Chicago, I was a translator. And I remember making like parties in which we raised funding for terrorism. And the English posters in English, they would say something totally different than the Arabic. The Arabic will be saying that we're going to recruit, fighters to fight in Lebanon, death to America, death to Israel, what have you, all this elaborate stuff, rivers of blood and everything like that. And then in the English, it would simply say, translation of that, it would say, "You are welcome to come and join us in a Middle Eastern cultural party. We will be serving lamb and baklava."
In the Islamic eschatology or end times theology that's driving Ahmadinejad and his followers right now, they believe that it's their responsibility to give infidels a warning, to convert or die, and then if the infidel world does not respond positively, then the end will come, and they are supposed to hasten that end by launching apocalyptic wars.
That crazy ideology in charge of a country that is developing atomic weapons is unbelievably dangerous, and it should stop. Everything else is secondary to this.
Historic hatred of Israel rampant throughout the epicenter. The rise of radical Islam.